my screen.
And a little bit of weight. Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Hi, chat.
I think we still have... Oh, yep, we're good.
There you go. There you go.
Huzzah! I
It
guess
took it a
I'm
bit.
blue double D double die today, which is fine.
Yes. You also get some little black bars for some reason. I cannot tell you why, but
I'm
they
fancy like
exist.
that.
Also, I forgot somewhere where I put the Virtual Talk logo, so no logo. It's just not there. Picture it being there, okay?
It'll be fine.
I know I have it somewhere, but like the scene doesn't remember it, so technical difficulties, you know, the usual
Jazz hands.
stuff.
Leftist audio, no.
Yeah, the usual stuff that happens when you're trying to get everything ready.
Mm-hmm.
But hello, chat. Hello. It is that time again. With today's guest. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Rosella. My pronouns are she, her. I am a therapist. I am trans. I serve our communities. Neurodivergent AF. And also, more importantly for this space, I'm a YouTuber. You can follow me at Ria Rosella most places. If you can't find me as that, try Ria Rosella VR. Because I'm in VR chat right now.
Yes, you're my first VR guest.
Whoop, whoop.
I'm a little more 2D, unfortunately.
Well, I have hands. Ha ha ha, I will rain it up above you.
Weirdly, well, if I could get someone to rig my model to do it, I could have hands. But it would, like, break my face tracking. I can get hands or face, one or the other. I can't have both. Yeah, that's a thing.
So, do you want to kind of introduce, or are we just hanging out, maxing all cool?
I mean, a little bit of both. It's,
okay,
I probably
cool.
should introduce
Fantastic.
myself to anyone who has not been here before. I am Nakami June. I am a VTuber, and I have been for like 4 years. You can find me on most of the things as Nakami June. Often without, like, the space between the words, because they don't like the spaces. But it's easiest just to search me on, like, Google. You can... This is something I always found weird. Like, after a year, you could just Google me. I don't show up in all those, like, fancy VTuber databases, but I am Googleable. Which is kind of weird. Well, to me it's weird. I've never been Googleable before. Which is an awkward word.
You get used to being a known trans person with time. Because of my work, I was known before I started becoming an influencer, just in different types of spaces.
Yeah. Well, I should also put this out there. I am also a trans woman. Though, I only told everyone specifically, like, last month.
When?
Yeah, I could get by just saying I'm a woman for, like, the last 4 years. And no one really questioned that, which was good. Because, I actually only accepted that I'm trans last year, even though I've used a female model, and I've been totally a woman online for the last 17 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, somehow the whole I can be, a woman IRL did not strike me for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I missed all those very obvious signs. But, yeah. Also, I think I'm only, like, slightly older than you.
Uh, really? How? I mean, my Discord, I think, has my age.
Uh, while I haven't been there, I have watched some of your videos, and,
Ah, I see.
I do, too, remember the early days of the internet with dial-up modems.
Mm-hmm.
Though,
Mm-hmm.
I was in high school when the internet became a thing, so
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm 35.
yeah, I'm like 10 years older.
Mm,
Which actually probably makes a lot of sense for why, like, I did not understand what I was for so long. I
very
mean, it,
common.
it would probably have been, like, better if I'd been from, like, a big city. Uh, but,
Mm-hmm.
like, rural Pennsylvania, zero suggestions at the time that trans people were even a thing. So, yeah.
Actually, I'm going to this week release a interview with the YouTuber Scar Yuri, and she grew up in that area as well.
Oh my. I guess there's some more of us than I think. Though, I'm in the awkward parts of Pennsylvania near Lake Erie. So, uh,
Don't dox yourself. Be careful.
I mean, that's still a pretty big area.
Still.
But, I mean, it's a whole corner of the state. Pennsylvania is pretty much split in the awkward corner that is above Philadelphia, the not so awkward corner where Philadelphia is, in the sprawling area around it, which goes for like
Mm-hmm.
100 miles.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the bastion that is Pittsburgh and its surrounding area. And then you have my
Mm-hmm.
corner, which is also hundreds of miles, but it's mostly rural. Uh, our only big town, well, we have a few decently sized towns, but the only real city is Erie, named after the lake, or the lake is named after the city, depending on how you want to think of that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that used to have like over 100,000 people. It does not anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But that means that we're probably the most rural corner, because
Mm-hmm.
the people that are like above Philly can just travel into like Philly's suburbs, and all the
Uh,
modern stuff is available
Philly.
over here.
Uh, Philly was rough. It is a city that is not made for cars, and I had to drive through it, and it is busted.
I have only been to Philly, or rather through Philly, once, I think.
Mm.
That was a long time ago. Maybe twice, though I didn't have to drive myself. I think when
Gotcha.
I was little, well, I guess not so little. What would that have been? I was a teenager, definitely. But my parents went to vacation, and we ended up going to Virginia Beach.
Yeah.
So that took us through Philly, I think. And then I've been to DC, but that was a class trip for like my senior year, I think. And that probably went through Philly too. So I do not remember much of that trip though.
Mm. Gotcha. I'm I'm a Georgia peach.
I know several people from that area.
Yeah. But yeah, I make, I guess I'll tell your audience a little bit more about me. I make content in kind of a few different areas. As a therapist, I kind of have an Ask a Therapist segment where you can submit in a Google form to ask me questions, predominantly about queer issues or autism or ADHD. Those are kind of my areas of expertise. But, I'll take any question you have. I also do educational segments where I will teach about a concept. My current video on that, because I'm relatively new to the YouTube game, is about gender affirming care and why people don't understand it. And I I do story time with like me, which is how Kami learned about my internet era because I mentioned it in my story time video.
Yes.
And I do news and current events stuff and sometimes rants, depending on what's appropriate. And yeah, that's the kind of content I make, other than the one that's the most popular, which is interviews. I interview people, it's a skill I have. One, from being a therapist and being a good listener and all of that, but two, because like I've just built the skill over time. I have an interview on my channel right now, other than the one I'm about to release this week, with Brooke from Brook to Valley fame. Everyone's seen her comics around on the internet. And then there'll be one releasing this week with the lovely meme lady, Scar Yuri.
Yeah. Uh, Ironically, I actually minored in psychology at one point,
Oh, well, there you go.
leading me to take an awful lot of classes that in the end I didn't really get credit for, but I took them anyways. As
Hmm.
one of my professors in psychology once said, people who go to college and take psychology often feel they are broken and want to find the answers, but they don't want to actually go to the therapist themselves. So they instead take psychology.
Yeah, I
Uh,
can definitely relate.
yep. Ironically, uh, my therapist also learned from the same professor. So,
Hmm.
yeah, we occasionally share stories from college, though we did not go at the same time, and I did not know her until looking for a therapist. Actually,
That's. Go ahead.
uh, I think my therapist used to live in Georgia.
Mm.
Ironically,
um, what I was going to say was, ironically enough, it's hard when you have so many intersecting identities to purely keep everything separate, because I do community-led therapy. Basically, I serve the people who I am, and it leads to dual relationship situations that have to be negotiated and figured out and ethically managed. And I've done specific training on how to manage dual relationships because of that.
yeah. Uh, Ironically, the only group situations I've been in are like support groups, and
Mhm.
at least around here, we do not. Well, one of the support groups is run by a therapist, but the bigger one actually is not. Uh, they
Mhm.
just run it themselves, and you just talk about
Peer led.
whatever's on your mind. It's all pure support.
Yeah.
But
Very common.
yeah, the other one's actually run out of a therapy office, but it's actually part of the same organization. They like cover this area of Pennsylvania,
Hmm.
but
I've
I end up
actually
going to
also
both, but
done. I've also done some talks with one of the colleges in PA. I'll say which one. I won't say which one just for security purposes. But I've done some guest lecturing about trans, queer, neurodivergent, kink, poly stuff, uh, being training psychology graduates.
sounds fun.
Yeah.
Uh, and one of those strange things, I've always basically considered myself part of the community, even though I did not accept what I was.
Hmm.
So, I've always sort of been on the edge, and it was sort of, well, I mean, I there there are like no pride events really in this area. Uh,
Hmm.
well, I think there are, but it's weird. Uh, when I was looking at like trans and LGBTQ groups in this area, I found one that does like a pride gala, is what they call it,
Mm.
and it's like it's like a really expensive dinner event, which seems to be all about like getting sponsors, and I don't know what they use any of the money for, but I'm like, that does not seem like a pride event.
For like queer youth or whatever, then I'd say maybe that's worth it. But if you don't know what it's used for, that's a little yikesy.
Yeah. They've been around a long time, and I assume they do something, but whatever it is,
Mm.
they don't really talk about it on their site. They just talk about the once year Pride Gala, which is at like a really fancy restaurant.
My
And, you know, they
when you
talk
say
about
gala, like a
sponsors.
ball,
So,
like dancing.
uh, that's actually a good question. I don't know. They just call it a gala, and it's at like a fancy restaurant, but I don't know anything else about it. Uh, it's in the summer, and the last one happened like just before I came out. So,
Ah. Also, my fiance is in the chat, and also someone else I kind of flirt with. So, moi, lovely people.
hello, hello. Uh, actually, since I saw your video, and Fox was in it, uh,
Hmm.
ironically, their avatar in VR chat looks like a really old avatar I used to use.
Oh, really?
Yeah, though that was my Nico face, so I was a cat girl back then.
Nico, Nico, ni.
But red and black fur, punkish style. Yeah, yeah.
Hi, Maria.
So totally a thing. Uh, though you will not get to see that, probably. I'd have to find pictures somewhere. Also, that was much earlier days of the internet. Things looked a lot worse back then. Man, when would that? That would have been like
Hmm.
before 2010.
I'm trying to think. Um, I don't. I don't have any like old, like public personas at least. I mean, I have myself. I've tried this YouTube thing a couple times, and I've had myself a couple times on the internet, but not like something like a cat girl or anything of that. I've been transitioning for 10 years, and everything else on the internet of me is in my previous incarnation. Well, is it? No, 10? Yeah, no, 9 years.
Yeah. Since that was the early days of the internet, and well, ironically, Nakami has existed for like, I want to say 17 years. Uh,
Mhm.
uh, I don't know how many people know. Some from my Discord server will probably know, but way back when, in the early eons of the internet, and specifically like using the internet, uh, I got into Second Life, if you've ever heard of it, and
Familiar with Second Life.
yeah,
Actually,
way
one
back
of
in
my
the
good
day.
friends met her wife in Second Life.
I know a few pretty good friends from my almost 2 decades there, but
Mhm. So that's where Nakami's from.
yeah, when you first signed up back then, uh, you had to put in a first name and then pick a last name from a list. So the
Mm.
June part of my name is actually from a Linden Labs list of last names.
Ah, gotcha.
Because they were a little bit weird back in the day, and you would pick a last name, and then anyone else with the same last name was family.
But
Distantly, apparently. But I never saw anyone else with my last name, so.
it's a, if I recall correctly, it's a Korean last name?
Uh, I've actually seen June used in like Japan, China,
Oh,
Korea. It gets around.
gotcha.
It was the only one that was like a real last name that I saw on the list. That was not like,
Mm.
I don't know, Evergreen. I don't remember what other names were actually on the list anymore. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, been
No.
Nakami ever since. So, uh, and ironically, just like, you know, uh, when you choose your own name after you come out as trans, back then it was much like that. I had to pick, the name that I went under. And
Mm. Yeah.
I had like an hour to choose a name that I would end up using for 17 years. I think I
Yeah.
did a decent job. I think I did a decent job.
So, um, Ria is actually my actual first name. It's common. It's already public knowledge that that's my actual first name. And I chose it because it means estuary in Spanish. As a social worker, change and trying to make the world a better place is a part of who I am and my journey and like what I want to be doing. And the river mouth, for those that don't know their earth science, is where the river changes into the ocean. It's a place of change where things mix and things grow, and that's why I chose the name Ria. But one of the names I was considering was Rose, as well, and I was like, I was torn between the two, and for my online identity, I was like, well, why can't I have both?
I'm all for that.
Yeah.
Uh, actually, since what I had to go by was the last name first, I'm like looking at various Asian names because, you know, I'm picking out a last name. I need something to go with it. So, like, I
Mm-hmm.
want to say they like chose a letter that my last name had to be, and they were all like J's. I don't remember what
Mm.
they were, but I remember it being like super limited, and June was the only one that I'd ever seen as like a last name before. So I'm like, okay,
Mm.
I need a matching first name. And I started looking around. Uh, there's like 1,001 like naming sites, even back then,
Mhm.
17 years ago. But yeah, ironically, there are lots of meanings to my name. And I'm not sure how I'd actually spell it in Japanese, because in Japanese you can spell Nakami like a dozen ways. But one
Mm.
version oddly means content. So that is that
Well,
is the
I think that's
preferred meaning that I
beautiful
want to give my
then.
name. Because I am definitely content.
Hada hada.
But yeah, the fun of having to choose a name. Uh, my name these days is a derivative of Nakami, but it is not
Oh,
the full name. So
gotcha.
my audience can try to guess.
Yeah.
But well, it's still not my legal name. One day, one day.
Oh, well, I hope that for you.
Yeah, sadly, uh, I looked into like changing my name legally here, and it varies in Pennsylvania by county. In my
Mhm.
local county, there are like 17 steps to change your name, and it
Ugh, that's
requires
rough.
like $300 minimum to put in like ads in different places and fill out the paperwork. Uh, and you need a court hearing, so that's got a fee as well.
Hmm.
Uh, so, uh,
Is it public knowledge what you do outside of content?
uh, I mean, not exactly.
Okay,
Some
well
people
then,
know in various
mum the word
places.
then.
I don't exactly like hide it, but like most of my like extended family doesn't know. Uh, not
Mm.
because I like keep it from them. I think my parents are embarrassed that I do this thing online that they don't understand.
See, I don't even know if my dad knows that I'm an anime girl on the internet. I don't. I mean, I mentioned it on my Facebook wall, but like I don't really advertise my content there very much. So that would be the only way he would know.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately for me, uh, the house I live in is
It
actually like
People have said that my avatar froze on the stream. Is that
oh, it does look like it did.
whack whack whack? I'm in the call as far as I know.
Yeah, even in video, it shows you static.
Do I need to rejoin, or would
Maybe?
that
I'm
mess
not
everything
sure
up?
how that works.
Hmm. Rotate PDF, rotate PDF, rotate PDF. Let's see. I guess we'll see. I can rejoin and you can set everything up again if you need to. Um,
Give it a shot.
hmm,
Give it a shot. We'll see.
right.
Worst case, we just get voice for a bit.
Yeah. Oh, I have to copy the password again. And that's difficult in VR.
Oh no.
And no, I got it. Luckily, I figured stuff like this would happen. That's why oh wait, I need to redo the password. Uh, okay. Do do do. I'm just doing a thing.
I'll just dance to the music in the meantime.
There we go.
Keep everyone happy.
All right. And then we're gonna go gonna paste. And then we're gonna do that, and then we're gonna mute. All right.
And you're
You
back.
should be. Oh boy! Oh,
In
hello
really
everyone.
weird hand positions, but that's fine. That's fine.
Well, that was because my hands were dangling in VR while I was managing it.
Yeah. I just have to mention it because it always looks funny.
Yes, someone in the chat. My fiance is not my wife. I am that kind of poly. Since someone said, or since she said rather. But yeah. Were we talking about like old internet? Was that the theme? Or no, you were talking about your name and like.
Yeah,
Right.
we dovetailed through multiple subjects because that's how this
ADHD?
works.
That's me at least. Let's go.
I mean, we just come here to chat. That's how this works.
Mm.
We'll probably get to certain subjects. I mean, for me, I've already done like an hour and a half stream earlier, which would have been longer, but YouTube decided that it detected copyrighted content and cut my stream off midstream.
Oh, that's rough.
Yeah. Unfortunately, React content on YouTube is weird because they do like some sort of algorithm thing, and occasionally I'll hit a video that for some reason is not usable, and then that sort of thing happens. Like, my stream will come back up like 5 minutes later, but no one's sticking around 5 minutes when my stream dies.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I was actually showcasing a long time trans like musical artist. For those that know her, it is Kim Petras or Petrus, or I'm not sure how you say her last name.
I think it is Petras.
I'll get it right one time. But yeah, something that I watched did not agree with YouTube. So, unfortunately, that is the end of a stream whenever it happens.
Gotcha.
But, ironically, we didn't even get to, like, her most popular song, or one she got, like, a Grammy for, and, like, it was a collab song, though, so it wasn't on her channel. That's why I did not find it. Ironically, like, right after, YouTube, like, shows it to me and goes, watch this. And I'm like, wait, is that another song? Why is it on another channel? And then I'm like, oh, okay, I've heard that before, but not that version. Especially for like a pop artist, so many of their songs become like dance music. I've heard like hundreds of variations of the song that were dance songs, like rearranged by like DJs and everything. But I had not heard the original. Yeah. Popular culture and me sometimes vaguely intersect.
That reminds me of a particular someone. Looks at chat.
Yeah, I'll see things and then I don't realize that like they're popular because I'm just seeing them for the first time, and I'm like, oh well, that's cool, and I'll forget it. Actually, I did another band recently, Hanabi, which is a all-girl band from Japan, and as I was doing one of my introductions to an artist streams, I realized like 2 or 3 years ago I had watched some of their stuff and I'm like, oh, they're cool. And then I completely forgot about them for like the next 2 years.
Gotcha.
That's just the way it
I'm not
works, you know.
really I'm not really a pop music kind of person, so I don't really have much to sadly
I mean,
talk.
I do all sorts of music that I listen to. I mean,
Mm.
I just did another trans woman artist, which was Damage, and she's a
Mm-hmm.
rapper. So,
Uh,
though I can only listen to so much like hardcore rap at a time.
mm.
So, in college, I had a roommate who was all into the hardcore gangster rap. Like, every time I got in their car, that's all you would hear. Oddly, if I recall correctly, they were like from a suburb, and yet they're listening to like hardcore gangsta rap in like before 2000. So I'm not sure where they picked up on that particular musical tendency, but it was a thing. It was definitely a thing.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I'll do all sorts of music. Uh, Personally, I have a bit of a music background in that I was in bands and I used to play the trumpet for, oh boy, when 5th grade through senior year of high school. So, however long that is, my brain does not want to math. So,
Long
I do
time.
have the background to talk about pretty much any sort of music, but uh, I'll comment on anything. Like today, some of the outfits Kim would wear, my gosh, my gosh. She is very flamboyant. So, some of her
Mm.
outfits definitely needed some commentary all on their own. You know, it touched on my fashionista soul, and it needed to be commented on. So, whatever I see in a video, I'm gonna start talking about. It happens. It happens. It's just how it works. Though, that's better than some reaction streamers that I've seen. Uh, like, there's another band that I've talked about and reacted a bunch to called The Warning. And, like, I think the youngest is now 21 that makes up the group. And
Mm-hmm.
even when they were all like underage, there would be like male reactors going, "Oh, these girls are hot," and I'm like, dude.
Mm-hmm.
They'd be watching a video from like 6 years ago in the band when the youngest is like 13 and saying that, and I'm like, that's ick. Come on,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
don't say things like that. But
That's
yeah,
pretty inappropriate.
yes, very. I mean, the older one and the middle one would maybe have been legal.
Mm-hmm.
So very awkward to listen to those reactors. It made me cringe a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, some guys
Speaking
need
of
like
video,
filters.
yeah. Speaking of videos, was there anything in particular about like mine stuff that you want me to like talk more on, or anything like that?
Um, I mean, we've both done like how we grew up, though I think yours is a little more in depth than mine. I tried to
Mm,
be sort of intentionally vague about some things,
yeah,
uh, but
yeah.
we've definitely both done that. But you're the first trans content creator that I've gotten on.
Oh,
Actually,
good.
once a lot of us on here.
Mm,
I think I've told you this, but one of my goals for the podcast, and it's a little bit of a change of direction because all my former co hosts are occupied and busy with other stuff now. Uh,
mm-hmm.
but since it's just me at the moment, uh, I want to get a lot of trans content creators on to,
Yeah.
showcase them, uh, tell their stories, uh, you know, let let the people in general learn that we're not weirdos.
Oh, that makes total sense.
Yeah, we're normal people.
Mm-hmm. Is there like any either like, since I do what I do, or if you want to, like, I can go on and on about anything related to like trans stuff, or like, being a therapist, psychology, anything like that.
Since I completely lost my notes, because I know we talked about this before, and I had
Hmm.
notes, and I cannot find wherever I put them, because that is how things work. I'm trying to remember. I know we had some topics we wanted to get to.
I think one of the things we wanted to talk about was kind of like, coping with the current environment, because it's really important because of
Yes.
the stuff that's happening.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, especially in the US lately, uh,
Yeah.
there's a lot of there's a lot of attacks against us. Uh,
Yeah.
Sort of a laundry list of things at the moment. Um, Actually, I just saw earlier that the legislative version of the trans sports ban is like going into committee. So,
Mm. Yeah.
not fun. I mean, we already have the executive order, but those are easy to change. Changing a law once it's enacted is a lot harder. So,
It's not enforceable as an executive order, like,
yeah. I
technically.
well, not that they really care at the moment, but
Well, not that they care, but I mean, like, if you want to, like, the technical kind of like
yeah,
way that it's supposed to be.
yeah. But uh, I've already not a US example, but in the UK, because they have their own version of trans sports bans. Uh,
Hmm.
I saw an article just like a week or two ago where a coach for a girls' team uh, demanded that the students prove to him that they were all girls. So,
Oh God,
yeah, yeah,
that's an oof.
yes. They were middle school girls too. So, uh, yeah. And this is what a lot of us have said is the result of trying to like take trans people out of things like sports.
Yeah, enable the PDF files, as they say, on the
Yes,
to
yes.
censor, avoid the censors.
Hi, you can. But yeah, we've already seen basically where that sort of thing goes, and I would prefer it not happen here in the U.S. because I I don't want that to be like a regular story that we hear. Uh, it's the same
Yeah.
thing with like bathroom bans. Those aren't really about keeping uh, trans women out of like women's spaces. Those are about
Oh
you know
boy.
letting people like judge who should be in a women's room, and not necessarily the women deciding.
Yeah, I
But
I have a bathroom story. That's pretty. I was gonna probably tell it on my channel eventually, so I guess the people here will get a preview.
oh my,
But yeah, it's a not great bathroom story. So it involves, just to kind of spoil the dramatic moment, just to kind of like entice you in. It involves someone looking at me through the slat in the wall of the uh the thing you go into. There's a
stall.
word for that. Stall, thank you. Yeah, someone looking at me through the slat in the stall. Because that's great. So now that I've teased your interest, the story goes basically, my ex-husband worked at a insert fabric store name, uh, and this was back when we had only one car, and so often I would have to pick him up when it came to like rides and things of that nature. And a girl's got to go when she has to go. And we were poly at the time, and my wife was with me occasionally. And uh, I thought it wasn't a problem. But then he comes home one day crying because he had the car, and basically like told me that a middle manager cornered him and basically said, like, is is your boyfriend a man? Basically trying to imply like, what are my genitals? And he holds up his ring and is like, my wife is a woman. And and then she just asks again, but is he a man? And then he's just dumbfounded and is like, she is transitioning. And I was I was pretty in it at that point. I think it was like at least 3 years. No, 2 years in at that point. And just completely, ignoring me in that respect. And I uh she she just wouldn't, like, basically said, well, uh he can't use the bathroom, blah blah blah, shaming him in front of coworkers who were all getting ready to leave. Like, this was a public space that he was cornered in, and he just was about to lose it. And the waterworks came when he got home. And what he decided to do was, he couldn't even talk about it, so he wrote like this big letter to give to the store owner or store manager, because since this was the middle manager, there were people above her. And this middle manager happened to be a gay man. And he's been nice to the fact that my ex-husband was trans, and relatively affirming and all of that. And by the way, could someone put my links in the chat? I would love that. Looks at my people who came here. Anyway, I was looking at the chat. Um, but if the chat will let you, sometimes there's tangent. Um,
I will keep an eye on it. If it pops up a
all right, cool.
message, I will allow it. So,
All right, fantastic.
and if they don't get
So,
to, I will probably eventually. But I
mhm,
don't have everything up at the second. So,
gotcha. So anyway, he hands him this letter, which he was like struggling. He was going to try to do it throughout the shift, but I go to pick him up and I noticed that he hands him it while they're in the parking lot, because he just couldn't, like, he was too nervous. He's like, oh God, oh, I can't do it. And I see them, and the manager reads the letter and is like, oh. And then like he comes over to the car and like meets me and I like wave and I'm like, hi, it's like, and he's like, oh. And he looks at my ex-husband as like, I'm sorry, but uh, middle manager made it sound like there were like lumberjacks going to the ladies' room, not to this clear transitioned like person. And it's like, no, there will be no problems. Everything is fine. And, yay, victory, blah, blah, blah. And it was fine for a couple months until, that time again, need to use the restroom. And
Oh no.
it
It did.
auto mod. Oh,
Yeah.
oh yeah, oh well.
Darn it.
Nice try, Rose. But anyway. Anyway, so it we went to use the restroom and my wife was with me that time. And my wife is assigned female at birth. That'll be relevant to the story. And so we go in. As we go into the door, the middle manager is at their customer service desk, which is kind of right by the door. You can see it. And we go towards the back of the store where the restroom is. And what we didn't know, but my ex-husband saw because is that after we went there, middle manager started to follow us to the back.
Oh
And it
boy.
was about time for him to get off. And so, he was about to probably come back that way himself. But anyway, I get ahead of myself. So I'm about to bust. And so I very quickly get into the stall and I'm using my restroom or using the restroom. My wife gets into the stall next to me. And then this middle manager comes in and I see direct eye contact, like through the slat in the stall. And then she goes into the stall next door. And my wife and I are just texting like, what the F? Oh my God, this happened. Like, oh. And she didn't actually need to go to the restroom. So she gets out very quickly. And my wife, like, gets out and I really had to go. So I had a little bit more time. And middle manager is, as I step out and I start washing my hands, middle manager is just like drying her hands angrily and is like, and I just finish washing my hands and I look at her and she goes, this isn't gonna fly. I'm gonna go to a corporate manager and tell her, and this isn't gonna fly anymore. And I decided to put on my best southern lady voice and I'm like, well, let me get the door for you. And I open the door and it she comes in and she goes out and my wife and I are like, boo, 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 boo. And thank you, Nakami.
No problem.
um and so we like calm down and then we open the door and we hear her scream because my ex-husband has finally got back to their break room, which is by the bathroom. We hear her scream at my ex-husband, "Those men!" And then we're just kind of, my wife and I look at each other and we're like, what? Because my wife had a dykey haircut.
Eh,
uh, self-referential self-referential. um no Twitcherino. um and had that kind of haircut and like basically was looking like, that was, they looked like the stereotypical lesbian. They even had a a like a flannel on at the time.
Oh my.
Yeah, and we were we were we were going to we were just dumbfounded, and it just proves that these transphobes can't police the bathroom, because my wife had they've lost some weight since, but like they had H cups at the time. I don't know there's ever been a trans woman in the history of forever who has natural through HRT H cups.
I've heard
um
about like double D and other sizable amounts, but
mhm,
uh, I don't
yeah.
think I've heard any that size.
Yeah. And it's so it my wife is obviously assigned female at birth. Just, got all the proportions. And yeah, they had no I she has no the transphobes have no idea. Sadly, this person was not fired because the in the game of telephone of telling the story to my ex-husband and then to his superiors, the part about the slat got dropped in the story. That probably would have caused a firing because, risk of lawsuit and all of that. But basically, she got told, if don't police the bathroom because you obviously can't do it. And then she left shortly thereafter.
Yeah, trans investigators do a horrible job regularly.
Hmm.
I mean, there there are lots of very classic examples of uh, cis women that end up getting caught in the crossfire. The
Yeah,
Olympics had a perfect example last year. Uh,
yeah.
I cannot recall the woman's name, but she had to like start suing people for trying
Was
to
it
defame her.
was it Amon Khalif?
Something like that, I think.
That name rings a memory. I think that might be it,
Yeah,
but I could be wrong.
yeah. Uh, I mean, there's some obvious transphobes and trans investigators online. Uh,
Hmm.
J.K. Rowling being one of those. Uh,
Yeah.
probably, probably the most well known, but
Moldemort.
yeah, yeah. Uh, yes, yes, that is the name.
Yeah.
But
Whoop, whoop.
you know, she got sued. Elon got sued. A whole
Mhm.
bunch of people got sued over calling her a guy,
Yeah.
especially in a
It's terrible.
country that both does not allow trans people uh, legally and
You know what's really funny is the reverse trans investigators, like people who are known as like trans women, but like trying to say that they were like actually like women to male to woman, like all like oh my God, it's just it amuses me so greatly when they play those games.
okay. Uh,
Yeah, that's the thing that exists. They did it for Caitlyn Jenner.
yeah, I was just thinking about her as an example. There are some trans women that definitely end up with some mental issues from everything.
Mhm.
Uh, oh, there's some trans content creator, and I can't think of their name, that is like a big MAGA person. Uh,
Blair White.
Probably.
Mhm.
I've seen little bits, and I'm like, you know, they like hate you.
Yeah.
You're not getting invites to anything because they would like you to like die. And yeah, that's a thing. But you'll keep supporting them. Good luck on that. Yep, great.
Yeah. Yeah. That yeah, there was a specific instance where she was on a panel and like this one person just kept calling her a man over and over and over again. And it was just Rose, you missed me telling a story about transphobia with bathrooms.
Only a little bit of it.
But
And
yeah.
yes, ads do happen. Uh, Twitch basically requires me to run them about every half an hour. So,
Hmm.
out of my hands. It is completely out of my hands. I have turned
Yeah.
them down as much as Twitch will let me.
Let's see. Oh yeah, we were talking about trans conservatives, and there's Buck Angel, who is like very anti non-binary people, even though he used to like, be this big activist in the space. The trans community has just moved past him. Um, I actually did an interview with Lance of the Surfs before he went to the Beanie Dome, which is Tim Pool's compound, teaching or talking about gender affirming care with him, as part of like the preparation for that.
I, I cannot. I mean, I live in a very red parts of Pennsylvania. And,
Hmm.
I, man, even before I was out, my my neighbors who are all MAGA fans are all like, you know, you don't like Trump, so we're gonna kill you. He's gonna be in office and we'll just kill you. We'll lynch you. And I'm like,
Oh, Dios
why
mío.
exactly? Because you don't support Trump. He's not your god.
Exactly.
And now they've started taking their signs down slowly. So
Oh, that's a
hilarious for
good
me.
sign.
But
That's a good sign.
I mean, they still don't like me any better, but
Well, I'll take them being upset with Velveeta Voldemort.
yes. Now they're finally on board with some sanity. Uh, you know, a tiny
Well,
touch of it, but
the problem is yeah, they just think that he's the like problem. A lot of the people who are seeing the light, they just like, oh, Trump's the problem, but like the Republican Party is fine. It's like, no, you don't understand.
yeah, especially right now. I mean, so uh, I'll just put this out there. I don't usually talk much politics, but I
Mhm.
am a registered independent,
Mm,
which is actually why my neighbors don't like me because they're all Republicans and hardcore Republicans. The
yeah.
fact that I won't pick a party uh, just
Hmm.
infuriates them.
Well, I mean, I'm technically further uh, than all of the parties, like, on the political thing. I
I
don't like
mean,
one of them.
at the moment, Democrats are proving to me that they don't have a clue still. So,
Yeah, yes, I was posting about that.
yeah, uh, I just actually saw something earlier from like a convention they had back in January. And they're talking, well, their talking points they had like 5 that they came to as conclusions after their meeting. The first was to get rid of small dollar donations and only go big. So, uh, fund themselves like Republicans. Uh, the next 3 were all basically versions of erase trans people. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, you bleeps, because I'm not actually going to say the word that comes into my head. But you bleeps.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is not how you
Mhm.
win. You are screwing yourselves over because you somehow think that Republicans have this overwhelming advantage right now. And
Mhm.
yeah, that's not true.
Another
Uh,
one of the things we wanted to talk about was what people could do in the now.
oh
I did a
yes,
recent short about this, and because a lot of people are feeling very trapped, especially like frozen by the constant news cycle. I mean, hell, we've even probably contributed a little bit tonight. And
true.
there are only 4 things you, as an individual, can do. Is you can take care of yourself, take care of others, take care of like a community, build a community, or build a like a skill or a habit that you need to build. Everything that you could possibly do about these things are in those 4 categories. And I find that it's really important to take the pressure off the feel that you have to do everything, be everything to try to make the world a better place. Dr. Devin Price, in his book Unlearning Shame, the very last section is about global shame. And it talks about how, like, there are social justice classes where you can, pick your class and do that. You don't have to do everything. You don't have to be everything to try to challenge these things that are very big. So, like, for example, with me, I would be like communicator, linker, and like healer. I have a couple classes because of just specializations. But educator, like, those are the things that I do best. I'm not going to be in the streets. Like, I'm not like, you know, uh, the person to like be in a protest. I'm the person that is going to like explain why the people in the protest are right. That's kind of like my kind of job. And, you know, so many people feel the pressure to be everything in this time, and you just can't. You got to take care of
Yeah.
you and
I mean,
only do what you can.
personally, I'd love to go protest at times, but uh,
Hmm.
here, there's not really any protests going on. I would have to travel like multiple hours away to go protest anything. So,
Hmm.
not really practical for me. Uh, I will protest online. Uh, I will
I mean, and
inform.
in a lot of states, we will get thrown in the wrong jail or prison or whatever
True,
if we get
true.
arrested. Terrible.
Yeah. Uh, I've actually so uh, because I'm very close to New York State. Uh, I've looked several times at just crossing the border into New York and
Mhm.
moving there. But I've still heard stories about how police in different parts of New York will still sometimes do very abusive things to trans people. So, while we're technically enshrined in
Mhm.
the state constitution there, uh, things are not always perfect. Let me just put it that way.
Mm-mm.
And actually, uh, I did a video a little bit ago on, uh, well, when they erased all the trans from uh,
Stonewall, yeah.
Stonewall, uh, I decided to make a video about Stonewall and trans participation in Stonewall.
Mhm.
Especially because I talked to people like my parents about Stonewall, and they're like, "What the heck is that?" I'm like, "Okay, well, obviously I need to do some education here, and
Yeah.
this is a great time for me to do that. So let's do it." But uh, I did a lot of like the background and how even like later down the line uh, in this century, uh, a lot of those early trans pioneers, um, they were getting like excluded and marginalized because people kept wanting like trans women in particular to be like
Out of
sex
the movement.
workers, and you know, you're that ugly part we don't talk about. So
Yeah, there literally was a movement in I forget the exact name, but there's a movement where it was like presentable like gay men that are like we are just like you except we are gay and blah blah blah, and like they were trying to do activism and trying to like make things go, and it wasn't until like Stonewall and uh um the street, what is street transsexual something, I don't remember what it, or
uh,
I don't remember what it stands for.
action revolutionaries.
Thank you. It wasn't
Took me a second.
until, yeah, it wasn't until like Star and the riots that the things actually kicked up in gear. There wasn't anything going on where they could like the presentable people just weren't getting traction. You know,
Yeah,
being pick me's never has worked now or then.
I mean, in a classic example of like most specifically, this is usually gay men, though turfs obviously exist too. But in a classic example of unsupportive gay men, Wes Streeting, the politician who is the uh, like health and social care person for the UK, and
Hmm.
came out with that decision to ban gender affirming care for
Yeah,
youngsters. Uh, he's a gay man, so yep, he'll just throw us under a bus. We're that part you're not supposed to see from the community.
yeah. I complained. There was an image going around of people writing like transgender on like the Stonewall sign in chalk, and someone was like pleasing. I don't know if defacing is the right like thing to do to like resolve that. Blah blah blah. And it's like, it's chalk, and also it's like it's a place where a riot took place. Defacing it is like in the spirit of the monument, for goodness sake.
Yeah, I mean, I think they defaced it by literally erasing words and replacing flags. So,
Yeah.
uh, I mean, potato, potato. I
Yeah.
don't think we'd ever see eye to eye on which of us was defacing it. So,
Mhm.
but I know back then too, uh, trans people, like,
Mhm.
so way back in uh, Germany in the 1930s was the first, like, trans medical clinic.
The Institute for Sexual Science
Yes.
by Magnus Hirschfeld.
Yep. And of course, basically the earliest target of a certain dictator and would-be world leader, who I don't want to name because, yeah, I just don't want to think about them. But uh,
Mm.
yeah, like all the early research was just burned because that's what they wanted to do. And
The first books that were burned as the book burnings were the stuff from the Institute of Sexual Science.
yes, yeah. But you know, we get to the Stonewall era, and there weren't very many like open, like, well, I mean, transgender wasn't even the term yet. Uh, most of them, if they considered themselves to be trans, were like transsexual.
It was actually transvestite back then.
Well, yes, that it. I've I even like uh, I played a bit of audio that was a interview like a year after the riots, uh, and I'm forgetting her name, and I should totally remember this.
Sylvia
But
Rivera or Marcia
uh,
Johnson.
I think it was Marsha Johnson. But there's a segment where she's talking about how, you know, uh, at the time, most of them considered themselves to be transvestites, but she was now calling herself transsexual and had actually been on hormones for a while and was talking
Mhm.
about like going to Sweden for surgery,
Mm,
uh,
mhm.
which is kind of mind boggling because, you know, uh, I grew up, well, as a teenager in, the 1990s. And that was like
Mhm.
easily 20, almost 30 years later. And, you know,
Mhm.
I didn't know people could be on like hormones. So, or,
Yeah.
or that surgery was an option. Uh, I blame the media though.
Yeah, my first exposure to trans women, other than the song Lola, was Jerry Springer. And I just learned that, oh, well, you can be that, but that's not something you should be.
Yeah. I mean, I think the earliest, I don't even think they called the woman in the movie uh, by like a term, or at least if they did, I don't remember what it was. Uh, but the first example of like trans content that I saw was probably the crying game as like a teenager,
Mm, mhm.
and that was a horrible example. Yep,
Yeah.
I I don't identify with any part of what happened in that.
Mhm.
Uh, so I saw the occasional thing on like Jerry Springer, and I'm like, I don't identify with that either.
Mhm.
Because I hadn't seen like a good example at any point.
Yeah.
I'm like, I mean, for me, even um, the whole like clothing thing isn't so much that I want to dress in women's clothing. It's that I want to be a woman, and I am a
Mm.
woman, in fact. But
But by the way, Kami, how long do you usually run? I just noticed it hit 8:02.
uh, so usually like a couple of hours. If you want to like stop earlier than that, we totally can.
No, I was just keeping an eye on the clock, that's all.
Yeah, but usually we just go a couple hours.
Okay.
Usually though, I start a little bit earlier than this. This is a later stream for me, so
I'm sorry, I have to work Sundays to have access to my clients so that they can
Yeah, I get it.
people who have
I
to
get it.
work during the week.
Yeah, actually, my therapist works on Saturdays. Sundays are her day off. So, though,
Mhm.
if we have an emergency, we're supposed to call her. But luckily,
Mm,
luckily, I don't usually have those sorts of emergencies. And she lucks out. Whenever I have a bad day, is not when I'm like going to see her. She always gets me on
mhm,
like my best days. I don't know why.
mhm,
One of these days, she has to see me on a bad day, but
mhm,
hasn't happened so far. But yeah, like for me, it wasn't that I wanted to like dress in women's clothes. That doesn't. That's not how my brain worked with that. Uh,
yeah,
so it worked the other way around in my brain. Being a woman makes me want to wear women's clothes because I want to be seen as a woman. Not,
mhm,
I want to wear women's clothes and maybe be seen as a woman, or maybe not, depending.
mhm,
So, uh, identification, especially early on, was really spotty with horribly bad examples.
mhm,
Uh, I think, I think it was actually a few years after I broke up with my ex fiance that I first heard like transgender as a term and had some positive style examples. So,
mhm.
and I don't even think those were good examples. Those were
Mhm.
like the first stories about kids that, you know, governments were trying to keep from like puberty blockers and
Mm.
hormones. And it was it was weird for me because my subconscious was like repressing like all those trans type thoughts.
Mhm.
Uh, because when I was a teen, I was in a really bad place, not knowing, you know, anything about what I was. So
Mhm.
my brain's like, yeah, yeah, we're just gonna shut that away in a box. And every time you think
That's a
about it,
problem for future Kami. Yep, that was kind of my experience.
so I would read these stories about, kids wanting to transition and go on, hormones. And
Mhm.
I would actually break down in tears. And I would
Mm.
have no clue why. None at all.
Mm. Mhm.
So, uh,
I I in my experience knew it was possible to transition, but I just didn't believe it was possible for me.
yeah. I mean, once I heard the term, that was that was very much my case too. I'm like, oh well, you know,
Mhm.
I've already been a woman online, and that's fine. But
Yeah.
I can't be that in real life because no one would ever accept that, and there's no way to do that, or at least that's what that part of my brain is telling me. Nope, nope, can't be done. Just go
Yeah.
as you are. Uh, which
Mhm.
was
Oh,
which
I
was
agree
really
with
ironic
that.
after my ex, but I don't know.
Am I
You have floated mostly off screen. It's interesting to watch, but there you go. That looks more or less normal.
Sorry, did I accidentally have my mic muted? Yes.
Probably.
Ah, well, I was saying, yeah, there's some quirks with being in VR. There's some oddities when connection issues happen, and like there's a example a VR chat VTuber who Fillion who she'll pretend to like crack her neck because of she can spin her headset around and crazy shenanigans of that nature.
Yeah. I mean, I in the early days of I forget the YouTube safe term. Uh, the dark days where we were all closed in our houses. That
I see
period.
the great panini.
But during those days is when I was figuring out my avatar to use for streaming, and
Hmm.
I looked at a bunch of 3D like models, and I came very close to being in 3D, but I couldn't find an artist to do it in 3D. So
Mm-hmm.
I found a lot more 2D artists. Uh, and I've now heard that to get like a high resolution 3D model is like sort of more expensive than live 2D. Uh,
Yeah,
I,
it can be. It depends on what you want, for sure.
yeah. Uh, so for chat, just in case you're curious, this model that I've had now for 4 years, well, almost 4 years. The model's anniversary is like March, I think, April, March or April, almost 4 years. But when I got this model, it was around $3,000. So
Ooh,
it was
yeah.
quite the investment. But
Those are significant. They're significantly cheaper now, for sure. I like this model I got for 500 custom.
yeah, uh, I was looking at 3D models though, and for what I was looking at to do mostly the same things I am right now, 3D would have been about 5K. So I'm like, I can't afford an extra like 2K. So
Yeah, my V2 avatar that I eventually will build will probably cost me $1,000.
yeah, things in some ways have gotten cheaper, and in others more expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I need my model like re-rigged. Uh, Mostly because face
Hmm.
tracking has gotten an awful lot better, and I could take
Yeah,
advantage of it, but the model's not rigged for the extra like
expressions.
express expressionality,
Yeah,
however you
there we
want to
go.
put
That
that.
works. Yeah.
The expressiveness is not sufficient in the model.
Mm-hmm.
I need more frames.
Yeah, and I can only control myself by doing gestures right now because I don't have face tracking.
Yeah. Uh, Ironically, uh, since I use a 2 PC setup, uh,
Mm-hmm.
all the face tracking runs on a 3070 card in the streaming PC. So
Mm.
it's actually pretty darn good, but because I can use like RTX stuff, and RTX face tracking is about on par with like iPhone face tracking,
Mm,
but
mhm.
I can't take advantage of like half of that because I would like to be able to stick my tongue out. If I do that right now, it just like opens my mouth. Oh, good. You came back just in time to hear me about sticking my tongue out. I mean, that is the time to come back. But
Da-da-da. Rose, gosh darn it.
yeah, models are expensive, or depending on what you want.
Mhm.
I mean, I've I've seen some VTubers pay an awful lot for their models.
Mhm.
Uh, I forget who it was, but one of the people in like Visojo was getting a completely customized, I think, 3D model,
Mhm.
and she paid like 30K.
Ugh.
And I'm like,
Well,
yep, car pricing, sure.
yeah.
I mean, for someone like them, uh, that's a business expense. So
Yeah.
I wish I
I mean,
had
it's a business
30K
expense for
to
me
drop
too.
on
Jesus,
business
I like
expenses, but
anything I spend on this, I expense.
yeah, yes, it's always quite expensive. Uh, but every
Mhm.
business is. Uh,
Yeah.
I mean, I keep having to borrow money for upgrades. That's sort
That's
of the
why
way
we have
things have gone for me. So
that's why we have lovely people in chat. Like, oh my God. Subscribe to Patreon. Like and subscribe.
yes,
Gosh.
yes. I mean, that's why there's ad
Mm.
time. Okay.
Well, that too.
Yes, it's well, it used to be worth a lot more. Uh, the Twitch ad apocalypse has happened though, and ad
Mm,
revenue is like bottom tier now.
I see. If
In the
yeah,
old
if you're not
days,
Hassan or whatever, you're making peanuts.
yeah, uh, in the old days, like a month of ads would be like 10, 20, maybe $50, depending on how many people you had. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
these days, it's like $1.20. I'm like, what?
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, not so great.
Yeah. I'm not quite monetized on YouTube yet. I'll see what that's like, I guess, when I get there, but I know that it's not gonna be a lot. Like,
Yeah, I am actually monetized on YouTube, but I
you
have
must have a
not.
very old channel.
Yeah, it actually took until I got one video that did like crazy numbers. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
it's actually why a lot of my like YouTube community is like the warning fans. I have over 100 warning fans, mostly off of one video. Uh, I went
Mm.
from like
Mhm.
I was looking to get like 400 subscribers on YouTube by the end of the year, and suddenly, after one video, I had like 550, and that was like the next day, and I'm like, what? And
Yeah.
that one video uh, got me enough watch time that uh, I could get monetized. So
Oh, for like supers and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, well, basic monetization. I could get ad in like revenue if I could ever monetize a video.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, though on YouTube, most of what does well is like music reaction videos. Those have always done the best for me on YouTube, but uh, I can't monetize those. They always get claimed, so I don't
Yeah.
get any ad revenue from them, which is ironic. Half of my channel is like reaction videos, and none of those get monetized. But
Oh, maybe you can find some stuff to react to that is monetizable.
maybe, maybe. Uh, my other stuff doesn't do quite as well, like gaming content, which is, most of what Twitch tends to be.
Mm-hmm.
Now I have some, like, trans-related stuff, which, by the way, I call story time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my Stonewall video is part of my storytime collection.
Mm.
I've done a couple others, too. I just actually did one, like, the other day, which was, my What is a Woman,
Yeah.
where I talk about, like, biology and gender and, biological sex, as they like to term it.
Yeah.
But all that sort of stuff falls in there. And then, of course, there's the podcast, which, you know, that I can monetize. So you guys just need to watch more.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
I could totally see that. I could see why they might do that. I don't even know if I currently have any queer tags on my channel.
It doesn't matter. They listen
Once
to
in a while,
words
it
today.
resets them, so. Yeah, weird stuff. Weird stuff. But. Okay, yes. That is probably there. I always can't tell because I almost always forget where to look.
So you're bi. I am a lay dollar bean myself.
Technically,
yeah.
technically, my sexuality is very complex.
Oh, okay.
I would count as like demisexual, probably technically pan, because the bits don't matter too much to me, but the like emotional connection does. So
Yeah, I thought I was multisexual because I was genital ambivalent, but it's the person and their like gender presentation that like really like gets it for me. It like I like people and I like women and feminine adjacent like people.
yes, I mean, so sometimes I will call myself a lesbian because it is a lot easier to explain how it usually works. Because women I have formed those emotional connections to and wanted to date, many men who I have formed emotional connections to and want to date, 0. So, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah.
I get that. I used to think I had to be bisexual because I loved my husband. But I think I have the romantic capability of loving like anyone if I put the energy in the relationship. Like if I, work on building the intimacy and building the vulnerability and building like all of that. Like I think I can probably love anyone, but I'm sexually I'm not into the dudes.
Yeah. I mean, so, here is sort of a funny story. Because I didn't really want to go in depth with it. Oh my, you
Uh,
disappeared.
I have to change my battery. You can still hear me?
Yep.
I just have to change my battery because even though I'm plugged in, it drains more than it
Oh no.
spins.
We need some quick charging. But when I came out to my mom, I I did not want to have to like go into the topic of like sexuality because that is a complex thing to explain a uh, to a woman who is in like her 60s. So uh, when I told her I was trans, she's like, "Oh, so you're gay? I always knew you were gay." And I'm like, no, no. I mean, I would be considered a lesbian, but that is not what you mean, and I know it."
Yeah.
I'm like, do not expect me to show up with some guy. That is very unlikely. But yeah, I'm still not getting into the uh like depths of that discussion because there is that small like possibility that I
Possibility.
could form that emotional connection at some point. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, for all practical purposes, a lesbian. But since uh, I can I can like tell if people are like attractive by my definition, uh, I still tend to refer to myself as bi. But
Well, I mean, there's like aesthetic attraction where like you can see someone is like attractive, but if you don't have that like head term like, ooh, I like would like them with a capital L. I mean, there's various attraction spectrums.
yeah,
And
that's why it gets so confusing and it's very
hmm
hard to talk about.
like when people were like going on and on about Luigi Mangione being very attractive, I was just like, I can tell that there is something there that people might enjoy. Nothing for me.
I mean, I think I have a few like hangups mentally that would keep me from actually like dating any guys I would actually be attracted to. But like,
Hmm.
I'd be attracted to like pretty boys if I were going to be attracted to men. Well, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I, I can tell they're attractive, but I don't get that like sexual attraction without the emotion. So,
Yeah.
uh, it makes it very complex. But I can like tell that that would be my type. But uh, I've also had a lot of like bad experience with like pretty boys growing up that were just the sons of Satan and
Mm-hmm.
like hardcore abusive, and I therefore would never actually want to like date them or anything.
Yeah.
I know it's really bad to like classify everyone like that by the same brush, but
I mean, the heart wants what the heart wants. Like, you really can't control that sort of thing.
yes, I mean there's that there's that small chance that you know some guy that is both like super cute and uh like super nice comes around and I could, you know, fall for them. But so far it hasn't happened. So I think mom
Yeah.
is safe with considering me a lesbian.
Mm-hmm.
If it ever happens, then I can deal with it.
Yeah.
Though, uh, my mom is still sort of weirded out by the whole trans thing.
Yeah. My dad didn't take it well. My mom actually, I didn't one wasn't one of the things that came up in my story video about myself, but she used it as one more thing to try to manipulate me. She at first appeared to be very accepting and very like loving and caring and all of that, but that was just to hook me in, and then she wanted me to become her maid. Uh, Basically. And then when I said no, like, I have a life, she called me the Teasler. So, hey, got him.
Yeah. My so uh here's a little bit of a story. Um
Hmm.
when I told my mom and I explained everything, she's like, "Well, I love you and I support you." Uh she had some limitations. Like she was not thrilled with my talking about like wearing women's clothes at some point. She
Hmm.
still wasn't on board with that, mostly because she was
Mm.
really worried about the neighbors.
Mm.
I mean, we already had like basically death threats from the neighbors, so uh, she was like, "Yeah, I don't think that's safe." But
Mm. Gotcha.
you know, that was her like big objection. Uh, but then, uh, so I convinced them that we should all get passports. Like at the end of last year. Well,
Hmm.
I'd been telling them that for like 2 or 3 years, but uh, I finally talked them into it, and they're like, "Okay, well, we'll pay for yours too, since none of us have ever had passports, and we'll just get them all at once." Well, uh, I'd come out to my mom by the time they actually, like made out the forms, and my mom got all like pissy that I wanted to put in, F gender marker on my passport. But
Mm.
that was when you could still just choose what to put on your passport. Uh,
Yeah.
and so I'm like, well, it, it's what I'm going to put. This is for like 10 years, Mom.
Yeah.
In 10 years, I definitely will not look the same as I do right this moment. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to want it to have an F when I am like that. So,
Yeah. Well, you said you haven't legally changed your name, so you can't, in the current administration,
well,
renew it
yeah.
without risk of.
Yes, though I did just get mine, and you have weirded out again. You're just a gray screen now.
Okay. On my screen look fine. So I'll just leave the call and rejoin it.
Okay. Weird, weird VTuber issues.
Hmm.
But, anyways, yeah. I put the correct marker on my passport, and we got into this, like, huge fight.
Hmm.
He's like, "You definitely should not do that." And I'm like, "Well, I'm going to. It's my passport." And she's like, "I will never believe that you're a woman." Oh, thanks, Mom.
Hmm. Oh, that's great.
Yes, that's supportive and loving. Yep, definition right there.
Yeah.
Uh, Ironically, since that was like in December, uh, and it was like just before Christmas, I'd actually been thinking about like getting us an appointment for like uh, basically a mother daughter's day at the spa. And I'm like,
No.
yeah, I'm not doing that now. No, no,
Yeah.
I don't think I should.
Good for you.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Maybe she'll come around. I'm not sold on that, but
My
we'll see.
father didn't accept it at first, but he eventually did.
Yeah.
It took time.
Yeah. Well,
A- And on the note of time,
yes. I know. All right. Is there anything you want to say before the end?
well, I just for anyone watching, hi. You know, if you didn't catch my name because you weren't here at the beginning, it's Ria Rosella. I'm a YouTuber. You can find me at Ria Rosella most places, and if that doesn't work, try Ria Rosella VR. I would love if you could give me a follow, ring the bell, all that stuff, subscribe. And it's been a pleasure being here. Thank you so much, Kami.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. It is always fun having other people on. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
actually, sometime I need to get one of my old co hosts back on. Uh, they're also trans, though pre transition for the most part in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
So, they would be interesting to have on an episode like this. And
We'd
maybe,
have a nice spectrum.
yes. Also, maybe we'll get someone else as a guest, and maybe you'll come back.
We'll see.
We'll hope.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's see. Usually I would pick someone to raid, but uh, the downside to HRT is catching up to me right this moment. So, I'm not going to go and look for someone to raid, because then I'd have to hang around on their channel for a bit. But I will see you all later.
Bye.
Have
Bye-bye now.
fun.
Bye-bye.